All right, so shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'll start off by saying Barakatham, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah Bahashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole few elect, start with the 145,000, shalom. So shalom, to the sincere Akim, right? Back with another SIGH&CRY lesson again, right? But I ain't really put it in my notes yet, but the title of this lesson gonna be the two sticks prophecy, right? And I was watching Elder Apostle SIGH&CRY, Elder Apostle Hart, the street ministry from the camp Saturday, right? It was going into this, and I think I put it in chat. Chat, the one who said it, said two stick prophecy, but we know, right? What they're talking about in Ezekiel 37, Ezekiel chapter 37, when Ezekiel he's prophesying, Ezekiel he having a vision, and he having a vision of the bones coming together. And those bones come together through what? Through the knowledge and understanding how by Shem shot. That's the breath. The breath the breath that Yahweh Shem shot breathed into those bones is this understanding, this knowledge, this truth, you know, and within that chapter, right? Let's see, at this point, I'll bring my notes on this because I was just looking at verse 12 because when you understand, we got in this truth, you're dead. So being brought by grace, we're being brought back to our nationality, brought back to who we are as a people. The spirit of Yahweh Shah being quickened, right? Being quickened, right? But that's left another day. Here it is. I'm gonna start here. I was saying I want to start at as I was saying with the spirit, right? At verse 14, when you ain't in the spirit of Yahweh Shah, you're dead. You're a zombie, right? So the spirit quickens you, John 6:63. Quickens me, bring a life spiritually. Because once you come life spiritually, you understand who you are, understand that we're the chosen people of Yahweh Shah, understand your true nationality, not the bullshit, the games, the gimmicks that Esau put out. It's in verse 14, it says, and shall put my spirit in you, and you shall live, and I shall place you in your own land, that you shall know that I, the Lord Yahweh, has spoken it and performed it, says the Lord Yahweh. The word of the Lord came again. The word of the Lord Yahweh came to me again, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. And when you understand it, right, when it says Judah, Judah is referring to the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, right? And then it says for the children of Israel, it says children of Israel, it's referring to the northern kingdom, Ephraim on down, the other 10 tribes, right? Because when you go into the history, right, we should have went into this before, right? Apostles, I know I've done a video on it like once or twice, but no, Lord willing, go with the spirit leaders, right? But when you go into the history, right, of understanding, we'll get straight to the point. We won't, well, we'll see the spirit leaders, right? But when you go to 2 Kings, right? Matter of fact, before we go to 2 Kings, let's go to 1 Kings. Like, you bear with me, right? Because when you understand under the house under Saul, hey David, the tribes was together. When Solomon went off, right? He let the wives turn his heart away from Yahweh Shah. He let those wives, turn his heart. He had said he had 700 concubines, 400 concubines, whatnot. Let's see, where is it? Bear with me. Yeah, he had 700 wives, right, and 300 concubines. His wives turned away his heart. 1 Kings 11:3, right? So his wives turned away his heart, right? And he started doing abominations, building temples, doing things, worshiping those other gods, right? As it says in verse 10, right? It says, and the Lord Yahweh was angry with Solomon because his heart was turned from the Lord Yahweh, the power of Israel, which had appeared unto him twice. You gotta understand. It's the point too to make clear. He wasn't mad at him about having those wives, right? He wasn't mad at him about it. He was mad because Solomon let those wives turn his hearts away. That's why in Deuteronomy 7:1, right, the Most High said, let's go there real fast. Deuteronomy 7:1, it says, when the Lord thy power, it's like when the Lord Yahweh thy power shall bring thee into the land where thou goest, possess it, and hath cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mighty than thou. Right? Because it was a lot of nations that was already here on earth, but the Most High, as you read in Deuteronomy 7, says the Most High didn't choose us because He didn't choose us, because we was larger in number than any nation, right? He didn't choose us for that, right? He kept His promise, what He promised to our forefathers for us, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He kept His promise, right? But to continue reading on, He said, when the Lord, but it's like for that, but continue reading on, He said, when the Lord Yahweh thy power shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them, utterly destroy them. Thou shalt not make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. It says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter shall not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. And verse 4 says, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So would the anger of the Lord Yahweh be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So what he's saying is how Solomon had those wives. It wasn't mad about him having a wife. He's not saying you can't talk to women of another nation, right? It's saying when you talk to people of other nations, he don't want us dealing with them because they will turn the hearts. And you see Jake now. Jake go with a woman. Jake doing all her holidays, worshiping her God, doing what fits to the wife, right? Happy wife, happy life. They doing whatever fits to the woman. And because men run their wits for women. Men do everything they can to make their wife happy, please women, right? But you only supposed to focus on how about she and how shy. It wasn't supposed to it wasn't supposed to be under you, right? It wasn't supposed to tend to you. But it's all backwards in how Esau put it. It's all backwards now. But going back to King Solomon let those wives turn his heart away from Yahweh Shem Yahushua. He was doing abominations for those guys of those other women, right? So once again, that's why Yahweh Shem Yahushua was saying right here in Deuteronomy 7, he didn't want us dealing with the other nations because when you go to Ezra chapter 9, it talks about that. It's that they have mingled in the other nations. Not that we can't be around them, it's that we were doing the custom, we were doing the abomination, we were doing the, matter of fact, let's just go to it, right? Ezra 9, start at verse 1, it says, now when these things were done, the princes came to me, saying, the people of Israel and the priests and the Levites have not separated themselves from the people of the lands, doing according to their abominations, even though the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Jebusites, the Ammonites, the Moabites, the Egyptians, and the Amorites. So we was doing the abominations that Yahweh Shem Yahushua told us not to do. That's why we had laws and commandments, for to separate us, because we are a separate people. Deuteronomy 76, we are a separate people, a holy people. See, Yahweh Shem Yahushua, holy means separate. And the law is holy, Romans chapter 7, right? The law is holy, so he gave us the law to separate us, Leviticus 20, right? Leviticus chapter 20, 25 and on down. He gave us the law to separate us so we wouldn't do these abominations. We wouldn't do these things that the other nations are doing. Right? I got some notes right here I read, right? The Israelites didn't separate from the other nations, right? And the men who was dating these women, it was because we was doing abomination like these women, basically following their ways, not the way of the Most High, right? As I was just saying. But once again, clear, because you have these Christians and all these other philosophies that try to create a man can have more than one wife, right? Most High was never mad at Solomon for having more than one wife. He was mad at Solomon because Solomon let those wives and those concubines turn his heart away from Yahweh Shem Yahushua, right? But everything not convenient down here. Everything not expedient down here. I meant to say, right? Everything not it's not expedient for his life down here because in the kingdom we're gonna have everything. So we're gonna be able to tend to have this wife ain't worried about that wife, none of that. So they gonna understand the laws. The laws of commandments gonna be written in the hearts and minds of all people. There ain't gonna be no more sin. Ain't gonna be no confusion. That's what Babylon represents, confusion. It's a lot of confusion here. People don't really know. They think they know the truth and order because we have Bashan outside, but they don't. Right? They think they have the zeal of Yahweh. Right? What is that priest? Let me see. Bear with me. Yeah, right here, Romans 10:2. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of power, but not according to knowledge. Right? They think they know something they don't know. Right? But I read verse 2, right? It says, for they have taken of their daughters for themselves and for their sons. So the holy seed, the separate seed, the holy seed have mingled themselves with the people of those lands. In the hand of the prince and ruler has been chief in this trespass, right? So they was taking, say they marry a woman and she has a child with a man from another nation, and they was taking them as their children. But them are bastards. Them they can't enter into the kingdom. So these are things that Yahweh Shem Yahushua gave us a lot. Right? You see, and that's what Solomon did, right? But to get back to it, so when Solomon did that, right? So so once Solomon did that, right? So this is when it goes into King Solomon did that. This one is going into the the kingdoms you split, because once again under King Saul under King David, the kingdom was together, and once Solomon died, the kingdom split. You're gonna see why, right? So let's see. Okay, yeah, we'll start right here, verse 28, right? So this was a man Jeroboam, right? And Jeroboam was a Ephraimite, if I'm not mistaken. Got it right here in my notes, Second King. Uh, yeah, the king is Ephraimite. Yeah, Khan, he was Ephraimite, right? I think it says right. I think it says in there, but once again, he was an Ephraimite, and matter of fact, let's go to Google. Yeah, he was the king, the first king of the northern kingdom, right? So he was an Ephraimite, right? All right, so let's go back to we're gonna come to take kings actually, but we're gonna read this first, right? So let's go back down here. All right, so and the man Jeroboam was a mighty man, right, of valor, and Solomon seen the young man that he was industrious. He made him ruler of all the tribes of the house of Joseph. And you gotta understand, Joseph and Ephraim is interchangeable, right? The word Joseph, when you see Joseph and Ephraim, it's interchangeable, right? What is that? That's in Numbers. Bear with me. Can't think of the exact Uh, I don't know why this thing always moves slow when I go to notes, man. Let's see. Yep, Numbers 132. It says, and the children of Joseph, namely of the children of Ephraim, right, by the generation after their families, by the house of their father, according to the number of the names of 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth, right. We also understand, in Numbers talks about how the pedigree comes from your father, right. But understanding, Joseph and Ephraim, they're interchangeable, right. So going back to First Kings, a little history, right? So verse 29, and it came to pass at that time when Jeroboam went out of Jerusalem that the prophet Ahijah the Shilonite found him in the way. He had clad himself with a new garment, and they two were alone in the field, right? And Ahijah caught the garment that was on him and written in 12 pieces, right? These 12 pieces represent the tribe of Israel, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? It says, and he says to Jeroboam, take thee 10 pieces, for this saith the Lord Yahweh, the power of Israel. Behold, I will rend the kingdom out of the hand of Solomon, and will give 10 tribes to thee. Right, so this is when the split come in. Those 10 tribes that were led away captive with the Assyrians. It talks about in 2nd Ezra 13. Talks about in 2nd Kings chapter 17. Right, it's talking about the northern kingdom of those 10 tribes. Right, because the kingdoms were split. Right, and it happened after Solomon died. The kingdom split, which we want to go into. Right, it says, but he shall have one tribe. He shall have one tribe for my servant David's sake, for Jerusalem's sake, the city which I have chosen out of all the tribes of Israel. Right. He said, because they have forsaken me and have worshipped Ashtoreth, the goddess of the Zidonians, Chemosh, the god of the Moabites, Milcom, the god of the children of Ammon, and have not walked in my ways to do that which is right in my eyes, and keep my statutes and my judgment, as David his father. Howbeit, I will not take the whole kingdom out of his hand. This is when the kingdom was split. You had a southern kingdom, which is Judah, Benjamin, Levi. You had the northern kingdom, being with Ephraim on down, right? But I will make him prince all the days of his life for David. I will make him prince all the days of his life for David, my servant's sake, whom I chose. He kept my commandments and my statutes. But I will take the kingdom out of his son's hand, and I will give it unto thee, even 10 tribes. And unto his son I will give 1 tribe, that David my servant may have a light always before me in Jerusalem, the city which I have chosen, me to put my name there. You understand that Jerusalem is the Most High's favorite city. That's why in the kingdom, right, Isaiah 2, when all laws commence to have by instituted to the whole world. We back in the rulership. Jerusalem is going to be that capital city. Jerusalem is going to be like the headquarters of the kingdom. Right? It says, I will take thee, and thou shalt reign according to all that thy soul desire, and shalt be king over Israel. Right? And it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and walk in my ways, to do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes, my commandments, as David my servant did, I will be with thee, and I will build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. That's what you understand. Right, which we're going to get into as well. Amos 9, under David, the house was together. That's why Amos 9, right? Matter of fact, we're bringing it out now. Right? Amos chapter 9, verse 11. That's why it says, right, in that day I'll raise up the tabernacle of David as his father. That's the elect. Right? The nations been brought back together, but it's beginning with the elect. Right? It says, I'll raise a tabernacle of David that is fallen, right? Because everything was, we've been scattered all over, right? Our temple destroyed, right? Everything's being rebuilt back up, and that's the tribes coming together as well. It says and that tabernacle of David is the elect. We're that spiritual temple that's being rebuilt, right? It says and close up the breaches thereof. The breaches thereof is what? The northern and southern kingdom split, so it's being brought back together, right? And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in days of old. How was it destroyed? 70 A.D. Right? The ruins, right, when 70 A.D. happened, right? 67 A.D. to 70 A.D., right, when they came and destroyed Jerusalem, tore down the temple, whatnot, right? Our people scattered all over, right? All that's going to be built back up, right? But right now it's beginning with the elect. The elect is that spiritual temple being built back up. And eventually, Yahweh going to come destroy this place. We're going to destroy those. We're going to destroy Israel and the people that's over there right now, and then it's going to be built back up into the kingdom of Yahweh and Jerusalem is going to be the headquarters of that, right? Let's go right now. Right? So we're in that day now. The whole free land, the tabernacle of David, the priests between the tribes, right? Judah and Ephraim, right? It says, one back in the past, the ruins after King Solomon brought in the ruins of our nation by 780, the Edomites had ruined us, right? Luke 21, right? We're talking about what? The siege of Jerusalem, right? When the Romans come in, Vespasian, Titus, Domitian, the Flavian dynasty come in. Right? Really start when Nero sent Vespasian, then Vespasian ended up becoming emperor, right? And it finished his son Titus and Domitian ended up finishing it off that Flavian dynasty, man. Right? You can read about that in 2nd Ezra 11, right? The 12 emperors, but that Flavian dynasty, they was fierce on Jake. They was hard on Jake, right? But understanding that's why that tabernacle of David being rebuilt now. The kingdoms are coming back together now, right? The elect is beginning with the elect though, right? And that breaches close up the breaches is talking about the northern kingdom and southern kingdom coming back together, right? So let's go back to 1 Kings chapter 11, right? We back at right, 38 again, right? It says, it shall be, if thou wilt hearken unto all that I command thee, and will walk in my ways, and do that is right in my sight, to keep my statutes and my commandments, as David my servant did, that I will be with thee, and build thee a sure house, as I built for David, and will give Israel unto thee. I will for this afflict the seed of David, but not forever. Right? We're going through affliction, we're going through pain, so we're going through these things, right? We're under the curses now, right? You understand? But he says, Solomon sought therefore to kill Jeroboam, and Jeroboam rose and fled into Egypt, into SIGH&CRY, king of Egypt, and was in Egypt until the death of Solomon, right? So Solomon ended up dying, right? Solomon ended up dying, right? And his son became Rehoboam. His son became king, right? So his son became king, right? So when his son become king, right? You know, his son become king, and we'll read a little bit of it, right? So if his son become king, right? You know, Solomon wanted to kill him, so you know, Jeroboam come to him like, hey, is you still on the same time your father was on? Is you still trying to come at me, whatnot, right? And that's what he tell him, right? So they come to him, he tell him like, hey, give me 3 days, they come back and ask me again, right? So we'll start at verse 12, right? It says, it says, verse 12. It says, so Jeroboam and all the people came to Rehoboam the third day, as the king had appointed, saying, come to me again the third day. And the king answered the people roughly, and forsook the old man's counsel they gave him. Right? It says, because they asked like, hey, is you gonna be hard on us like your father was on us? Is you gonna be treating us whatnot? Is you gonna try to come with us like your father was? And he telling them like, that's what he tell them, right? He says, and spake to them after the counsel of the young man, saying, my father made your yoke heavy, and I will add to your yoke. My father also chastised you with whips, but I will chastise you with scorpions. Wherefore the king hearkened not to the people, for the cause was from the Lord Yahweh, right? The Most High put that spirit on him to do that, right? Because it's prophecy that the kingdoms had to be split, right? All these are prophecy, right? You know, Most High control everything, right? Most High put the spirit on Rehoboam to do these things, right? As you see, so wherefore the king hearkened not to the people, for this cause was from the Lord. It's showing you prophecy that the kingdoms would be split. And when you understand the kingdoms being split, we both end up going into captivity, which leads us here today, which we're going to get into Hosea 1 to 10, which leads us here today. And that's why Ezekiel 37, when he had that prophesying that low valley is here in the Americas, where we're being brought back together, our kingdom being brought back together. The northern and southern kingdom, you have of the elect that's being that 144,000, that 1/3, you have all tribes be brought together. Not just Southern, not just Judah, not just Ephraim. No, you have so-called Mexicans, so-called natives, the Gad. You have all the nations brought together. Not all of Israel. I'm talking about you have people from all other nations, all the tribes. I meant to say all the tribes being brought back to the knowledge and understanding of Yahweh. That's of the elect, right? You don't have just Judah waking up. You don't have just Ephraim waking up. You don't have just Manasseh waking up. You don't have just Gad waking up. From every tribe, you have the elect are waking up, the chosen one, right? The one who's ordained before the world was even founded, right? But it said, wherefore the king hearkened not to the Lord, not to the people, for this cause is from the Lord Yahweh, that he might perform his saying, which the Lord spake by Ahijah the Shilonite unto Jeroboam the son of the Because remember, he told them, they're going to split the kingdoms, right? You're going to split them. You're going to get these 10, you're going to get these 10, right? So the kingdoms end up being split, right? So once they've been split, let's go to 2 Kings 17 real fast. We'll come back to that, right? So once they've been split, right? So this is when you go into the golden calves, right? So it's in the lead to the Assyrians taking over. But I want to read a few precepts right here. I start at verse 18 and I read down to 21. It says, therefore the Lord Yahweh was very angry with Israel and removed them out of his sight. There was none left but the tribe of Judah only, right? It says, Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord Yahweh, their power, because we was in Jerusalem. The southern kingdom was in Jerusalem, but guess what happened with us? We end up the Romans end up coming in, we end up being scattered all over, which end up leading to us being brought over here on ships. During 2868, brought over here to America on ships. See, the northern kingdom was already over here because in this chapter it's talking about how the Assyrians came and pushed them out of Samaria. They traveled, right? And that's how they end up over here in the Americas, right? But they went through a lot of hell as well, right? With Ephraim, the Puerto Ricans, you know how that with the hurricane coming over here, being drafted into war, all type of things, right? Gad, they come over here, Trail of Tears, right? The Spanish coming over here doing all the things, these are all prophecy, these are all chastisement, these are all judgment from Yahweh Shah, which we cause upon ourselves, right? But it says, also Judah kept not the commandments of the Lord Yahweh, their power, but walked in the statutes of Israel, which they made. The Lord Yahweh rejected all the seed of Israel and afflicted them. We all went through, not just once, we all went through these things, right? and delivered them into the hands of spoilers, right? The Assyrians, right? The Edomites, right? And the spoilers right here talking about the Assyrians, right? Because this is when the northern kingdom was being pushed out by the Assyrians. What is that? What is it? Salmanasar, right? He bringing all these people into they bring all these people into Samaria, right? And they northern kingdom was being pushed out, right? It says until he had cast them out of his sight, for he rent Israel from the house of David, and they made Jeroboam the son of Nebat king. And Jeroboam drove Israel from following the Lord and made them a great sin. They go into the two golden calves, right? So when you go back, Rehoboam he didn't want to change nothing up. So Jeroboam didn't want the northern kingdom going back into. He didn't want the northern kingdom going back into back into Jerusalem to do Passover things or what do the holidays of our people, right? So he made two golden calves, right? So we'll start at verse 27, right? He says he was scared that if the people went down there, they would eventually start following Rehoboam and turn on him and kill him. So he made the two golden calves so they wouldn't do it, right? So this is 1 Kings 12 and verse 27, right? It says, if this people go up to do sacrifice in the house of the Lord Yahweh at Jerusalem, then shall the heart of this people turn again to their Lord, even to Rehoboam the king of Judah, and they shall kill me, and go again to Rehoboam the king of Judah. Whereupon the king took counsel and made two calves of gold, and said unto them, it is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Behold, thy powers, O Israel, which brought thee up out of the land of Egypt. And he set one in Bethel, and the other he put in Dan. And this became a sin. This became a sin, for the people went to worship before the one, even to Dan. So the people are going to worship these golden calves, right? That's why 2 Kings 12 it said, they followed him in his sins, because he made the two golden calves in order to keep. Hey, don't go down to Jerusalem and worship the holidays, do the thing, do the righteous thing. How about y'all? Just stay here so y'all don't turn y'all back on me. I got y'all. Just follow me, right? And right? As you see in verse 32, right? It says, I'll just read down. It says, he made a house of high places and made priests of the lords of the people, which were not the sons of Levi, right? The Levites, right? It said, and Jeroboam ordained the feast in the 8th month, in the 15th day of the month, the Passover, right? Like unto the feast that's in Judah and Jerusalem, right? He's stopping them from going to do these things because he don't want them to follow after Rehoboam, right? And he offered upon the altar. So he did in Bethel sacrifice unto the calves that he made, and placed in Bethel the priest of the high places which he made. So he offered up upon the altar which he had made in Bethel in the 15th day of the 8th month, even in the month which he had devised his own heart, and ordained a feast unto the children of Israel. He offered upon the altar and burnt incense. So he telling them, hey, y'all follow me, don't go over and do that, because he don't want them to follow after Rehoboam, because he think they're going to turn on him and kill him, right? So saying all that goes into the split of the kingdom. That's when the kingdom split, right? And then with those sins later lead to, Jerusalem, well, the northern kingdom, right, being ended up pushed out by the Syrians, end up coming over here to the Americas or whatnot, right? And then you have Judah, who was going off, Judah being Levi, who was going off of Jerusalem, right? They're going off, right? And they're going off and end up leading to the siege of Jerusalem with 67 AD to 70 AD, with the Romans coming in, right? Us flitting all over, the falling away, right? End up being led into captivity on ships over here to America, into slavery or whatnot, right? And then that's how we all end up here today, right? So I wanted to bring out John 10 real fast because it's on my spirit, because you got to think, Yahushua came, he was warning the southern kingdom. He was warning them, hey, y'all get right, turn back, get right, right? But how did he speak to the northern kingdom? Through the spirit. He came over here in the spirit, right? It's John 10:16. He said, and the other sheep I have, talking about the northern kingdom, which are not of this fold, because when he coming, he's talking to who? He's talking to the southern kingdom, right? He came and he telling them, hey, get out the way of these people. Follow the ways of Yahweh, do the will of my Father. I can't illustrate the will of my Father. That's why he's the author and finisher of our faith. He knew it had to be done. It goes to the second covenant. Yahweh knew that we couldn't keep the first covenant righteous because we're in this corruption, right? So he knew that we had to be changed. That's why Yahweh was sent, right? But it had to be a sacrifice. There had to be bloodshed. It had to be, as the scriptures say, necessity of death. And Yahweh knew that, right? That's why he laid down his life for Israel, not everybody. He laid down his life for Israel. So it goes to the second covenant. The only thing that happens in the second covenant is his blood being shed. And then eventually, when he comes and deliver us, we're going to be changed to spiritual bodies. Laws and commandments are written in our hearts and minds, right? You know, and all of Israel enter into the kingdom, but a lot of Israel got that 2/3 got to go through that judgment first, man. Right? So it says, and the other sheep I have, which are not this fold, them also I must bring. He talking about the northern kingdom, because he's that comforter for us who was here, right? But now that we're Kakadash, the comforter which he left for us, now it's gathering up the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom, right? And they shall hear my voice. There shall be one fold and one shepherd, right? How there's two? No, it's gonna be one, right? So that's why you have Yahweh, King David, and you have the elect. The elect is all the people from the 12 tribes. That 1/3, that 144,000, not just one tribe, not just this tribe, not just that tribe, not just this kingdom. No, the elect being brought back together. The kingdoms being brought back together today, right here, right now, right? That's the notes I want to read, right? This is dealing with the northern kingdom. Yahweh came of this side of the world after he ascended back to the Father. He came over to this side of the world. He visited the northern kingdom. That's through the Spirit. Through Kakadash. Through Kakadash is gathering all of it together, right? Let's go to Hosea 1:10 real fast, so we go back to Ezekiel. That's why we're gonna go into that spirit, that breath, that understanding, knowledge and understanding, which the Kakadash brings unto us, the Holy Spirit, right? The Spirit of Yahweh Shah. It brings that to us and it's gathering the nations, gathering the elect, right? But this Hosea 1, and it's Hosea 1, right, in verse 10. It's like this Hosea 1:10, right? It says, yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sands of the sea, which could not be measured nor numbered. It shall come to pass that in the place where it said unto them, you are not my people, which is here in America, right? That valley, that lowland, right? Which is here in America, right? Where they're trying to tell us, hey, you're not the children of Israel. We are. No, right here. We're the children of Israel, right? Yes, our kingdom was split, but they're going to be brought back together. This two-stick prophecy, man. They're going to be brought back together, right? And they're being brought back together here today, right now, right? As the elect is being gathered through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah, right? It says, that place where it was said unto them, you are not my people, there shall be said unto them, you are the sons of the living power, right? As you see right here, I got in my notes, right? That places, they always try to tell us, we ain't Israelites in America. It's one reason why you had different tribes coming to America. That's why you see a lot of tribes coming here to America, because the Most High is bringing them that great reunion back. The two main tribes, or the two head tribes that will put this together, would be Judah first and then Ephraim, second in lineup, with so-called Puerto Rican, right? Because Judah is the head tribe, right? You know, Judah is the head tribe, right? And the scriptures tell you how Judah shall not vex Ephraim, Ephraim not vex Judah. Everything we brought back together, right? Judah is the head of that southern kingdom, and Ephraim is the head of the northern kingdom. But it's being brought back together, man, right here today. Verse 11 says, then shall the children of Israel, then shall the children of Judah, the southern kingdom, and the children of Israel, the northern kingdom, be gathered together, appointed themselves one head. They shall come up out of the land, for for great shall be the day of Jezreel. Right, as you see, Jezreel, he see the power. One head, which is King David, then you have Yahweh, which is the head, then you have the Most High on top of that. But when you understand it, that's why you have the elect is Yahweh, King David, then you have the elect. That all of Israel being brought back together, man. Yeah, we were once split, but now we're being brought together. And that's happening today, right now. Right? The two-stick prophecy, man. Right? So let's go back to Ezekiel 37, man. Right? So, once again, back at verse, and that's happening through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shah. Once again, these bones are being brought together through the breath. That breath is what? If knowledge is understanding, right? You know, and Most High putting his spirit in us, he quickening us, right? Because we dead now in this truth. So that spirit of Yahweh Shah is bringing the tribe back together, right? Beginning with the elect, right? So let's get straight to it in verse 16, right? It says, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, for the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom, his companions. Then take another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of his companions, right? So it's the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. You know, Judah and Ephraim interchangeable, and join them one to another into one stick. They shall become one in thine hand. That's why it's prophecy that, you know, the apostles, that Elder apostles always talk about this. When you're out on the highways and byways, you need to have the sign out there, man. Because it ain't no more northern kingdom, southern kingdom. We're being brought together right here today. It's happening right here today in the Americas, right? In that place that they say you're not my people, right? In this valley, this lowland, right? It's talking about America. This happened right here in America today, right? It says, and when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, this saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel, his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. Right? So that's the tribe. That stick is referring to, like a post or board, right? The tribe being brought together, man. Right? The two-stick prophecy. Right? I got right here in my notes, right? So it's a commandment for us to have the sign, right? None of these prophets or disciples walked around with the sign. This was something set up for the future. The Lord put the spirit on the Apostle John to write down the 144,000 men, which is the governing body under Yahweh, right? 12,000 from each tribe, right? That's that 144,000. That's the elect, right? That's the elect. But that's from each tribe, not just one tribe, it's from each tribe. Today the Lord identified who the 12 tribes are, right? And we being in that elect, that 144,000, 12,000 each tribe is being brought back together, all Israel. And there's no more split. Now we're back together, right? Now we're back together. And we're going to be in the kingdom. And there going to be no split. We're all going to be together, man. Right? So that's that two-stick prophecy, man. Right? The kingdom being brought back together, man. Gave a little insight on how it was split, whatnot, but now it's being brought back together through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shah. So Lord willing, right? His lesson was edifying and exalted. Right? I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shah, Bahashem Kakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. And shout out to the whole few elect, start with the 144,000. Shalom.